new here with the clicker. We'll see if that works. If you guys want to put up the first slide. Now I'm going to be showing you guys a bunch of pictures. I will be showing you very few wedding pictures, so that is for maybe another time. I'm going to talk mostly about before I met my wife, Gabrielle. And this is sort of going to be a bit of show and tell. I have a bunch of pictures. Don't have too much fun with them. Hopefully they'll keep you engaged. And this is also a bit of my life story in a way, although I will probably have to cut some things out. So we'll see how this goes. When I was thinking about sharing about my relationship history, I was trying to think about how many girls over the process, I have sort of encountered. And there's lots of different ways that people phrase this. I came up with there were 17 girls who I had a mutual conversation of attraction with, or hung out with. But I only dated 3. So as you can see, a lot of them we decided not to date. I broke this down as there were 2 in high school, 8 in college, 2 during my time studying abroad, 2 when I was in Albania, and 3 post-college, all before I met my wife, Gabrielle. And 10 of these, 10 of 17, I have kept in ongoing contact with and are friends of mine. And no ugly breakups. So that's sort of an overall thing. So, I don't have a picture from freshman year either. Some of you have found my picture in the 03-04 yearbook, which that is relevant if you want to check it out. But I wanted to say, it's important to have a crew or a group of people who are your base. And so no matter what you're doing with relationships with the opposite gender, you always have a group of people who you can hang out with, talk with, and spend time. And no matter what happens in the opposite gender realm of things, you'll always have a solid base. And that was very important to my life. So this is my high school crew at senior banquet. I came into Doc, not very popular. I was sort of a shy middle schooler, chubby, high-voiced, almost under 5 feet, freshman. So I had little idea about what I was good at, and I lacked a lot of confidence socially. And then, along the way, puberty arrived, and I started to transition, so my voice dropped, and when I came back from the summer, when I came back sophomore year, people were like, whoa, your voice got really low. I grew taller, stronger, and this allowed me to grow in confidence, and I started trying new things and meeting new people. And within one of these situations, ironically 2 days from now, Arts Day, I met a girl through trying out some new things like musicals and drama, and we were actually cast as leads in the Arts Day drama together. So this just felt like things were supposed to be, and so I asked her to the banquet. So that's us. We walked in the banquet, just so so this was one of the girls that I dated. This was by far the longest girl that I dated before my wife. We dated for about a year in high school. So the first thing that I want to share as sort of a takeaway or a theme is to set standards. When you guys are in high school, particularly younger, you might not really know much about what you're going to desire in a spouse. So to some degree, dating can be a way to find this out, but I also think you shouldn't date someone who you don't think could lead to the direction of marriage. So I think it's important to come up with ideas of what are things that are important to you within someone who you would spend the rest of your life with, and you should only date someone who meets those convictions. So for me, I had a list like someone who's committed to the faith, who's respected by other people, who I can have deep conversations with, who I can feel natural around, who enjoys the outdoors or sports, and who's going to be a good influence on me. And she met those qualifications. So the second one is follow through. feel like you like someone who meets these qualifications, and it's possible, man up for the men, and, well, I mean, women, go for it as well, but follow through. But this, of course, and more importantly, means if someone does not meet those qualifications, as you have said, that you should try to avoid the temptation of dating them just because you can and you like each other. There were definitely some girls in high school who I was very attracted to, but I'm very glad, and I think we're probably mutually glad, that we did not date each other because it wouldn't have produced anything meaningful. The next thing is be creative. So many relationships fizzle out, go places they shouldn't, or are not learning experience because people just always do the same thing. So watching movies together all the time is lame. Get out, explore the world. This was us at a Relay for Life event, so we did some service together. This was back in the Wild West days of Doc, when Refugee Day included a live action piece. And so here I am leading the group, including my girlfriend there, through the dangerous world of refugees, or that refugees have to deal with. And we were in musicals and choir together. This is sort of a cute picture. We're looking at each other while singing solos. So this creates, learning experiences. This allows you to get to know each other much better. So I was very glad that we did some of these different things. And this ties into the sort of fourth thing for this time, which is always invest yourself. Don't get so hung up in the person you're dating. Always invest yourself in experiences and adventures that are going to expand and grow yourself. So this was the baseball team after we won a state championship. So sports, or heading out in nature and just living. I think that you need to be able to develop yourself and learn about yourself and challenge yourself before you really understand who you are and therefore the type of person who you would value being with. So I think it's priority, especially when you're younger and you're developing so much, to not shy away from experiencing the world for yourself. Okay, so because my girlfriend and I had a lot of respect and open conversation with each other, we were able to come to actually a mutual agreement that when we went to college, we would not continue to date. We knew that it just wasn't something that we thought would lead to marriage, and so we separated, and her and I are still good friends today. Now, when you guys go to college, a lot of people are like, well, especially at a Christian college, I'm going to meet someone who is going to meet the standards, and dating, and maybe get married. A lot of people expect to meet people in college. So, the first thing is in order to date and get to know people, you have to actually put yourself out there and build friendships. Now, again, having same-gender friendships are really important as a core, but also getting to know people of the opposite sex is important. So this was one of my friend groups. These girls are actually all teachers, so that's sort of how we knew each other. And let's see what to share here. Let's just see my next picture. All right. So sometimes you really put yourself in great situations like coaching powder puff football, where you get to meet lots and lots of girls or people of the opposite gender. So put yourself in good situations where you can get to know people. So I want to share that I did not meet my spouse, or I did not really date anyone significantly in college. So although I got to know a lot of people, we didn't end up dating, and things often just didn't work out. They were sort of frustrated in college. I'll skip that one. I just don't have time. So one of my friends, this was sort of an unfortunate situation because actually the picture you saw previously, I really sort of fell hard for her junior year. And we actually fell hard for each other. And during the time that we were having conversation about whether or not we wanted to date, one of my other friends, who is also a close friend of that girl, basically we had a conversation where she was like, I really like you, I'd really like to, maybe start dating. And I was like, well, this is sort of awkward because I like your friend, and so we had open conversation about that, and obviously that was not very easy, but I was up front with her, and she appreciated that, and so we remained friends. In fact, we're still friends today, and so this is after that awkward event had happened. But why this is unfortunate is because I went off to study abroad, and then when I came back, senior year, I actually really started liking her. And so eventually I was like, so you know how you told me you liked me before? Any of that still going on? And she was like, sorry, that was sort of hard. And so, I've sort of moved on. And I was like, that's totally understandable. I'll get over it. I didn't right away, actually. We were good friends. So some of this is maybe learning about boundaries. When you hang out with people who you like, even if you're like, well, this isn't going to work, it can be really hard. So it was like 2 months later, we were sitting next to each other in class, and I just started tearing up because I was like, hey, I still like this girl. And so she's like, what's wrong? What's to talk about? And I'm just like, this is not a good situation. But eventually I told her, and she was like, wow, okay, you still like me. I don't think this is going to go anywhere. So yeah, I figured that. But you keep hanging out, and sometimes things are just tough to kick. And a couple months later, I still felt like just a really strong connection with her in a way beyond friendship. And so I finally just said, this is just for me to do my own processing. I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is, but I wrote her a letter just explaining some of how my feelings had changed over time. And we had a conversation to sort of wrap that up. And that final just fully sort of sharing what my feelings and journey with her was allowed me to move on. So for the very end of senior year, and since we have been close friends. So open communication, although it can be really difficult and awkward at times, is really important. In fact, a girl who I just never really had classes with in college, but I just felt like was someone who I wanted to meet, I actually decided, there's no reason why I shouldn't just sort of randomly ask her if she wants to hang out sometime. So I did, and senior year we just sort of, we went on went to the student center and got to eat and talked and had conversation, and we're up front with each other. I just said, I feel like I'd like to get to know you and see if anything develops, and she was like, yeah, same. And after a couple conversations, I didn't think like it was going anywhere that I wanted to pursue a dating with her, and so I shared with her what I was feeling, and she, although that's a little awkward, she was like, yeah, I'm sort of in the same place. And she said to me, it's really interesting because a couple of my friends who have had some of these rendezvous with you, they have shared that you were always very upfront and honest with them about what you were feeling. And so I felt very safe, just going out and hanging out with you, and felt like you were going to be honest with me, which you were, and so I really appreciate that. And I want you to know that, a lot of the girls really respect you because they know you're not, trying to take advantage of them and that you're being upfront with them. So, that's not to brag, that's just to say, doing the tough work of communicating openly with people will pay off. And it will get you respect, and it will allow you to develop relationships honestly, even though sometimes things just don't work out. Be one of the guys is just sort of the reminder, through all that sort of rockiness and attractions, you always need your friend group. And really these are the guys who, I'm most a part of my life now. In fact, the guy on the right, I was his best man and he was mine this past fall. So having that group of same gender or just that crew that stays the same is really important. So yeah, I'm going to do just sort of an overview just so you're familiar with stuff, but I'm not going to talk too much more in depth. So I went to Jerusalem to study abroad in college, and obviously made a whole new family and group of people, so a lot more opportunities to build relationships and learn about people, which comes back to that theme of always invest yourself and put yourself out there. Because you're going to create really cool relationships and you're going to learn a lot about yourself and other people if you actually put yourself in situations to meet new people and be pushed out of your comfort zone. But of course, there were girls who I encountered that I really liked. And following the same sort of laws from the past, being honest, having open communication, having standards. This was a girl who I decided met those standards, and I was sort of thinking about asking her out. And sometimes it became apparent that other people were maybe interested in the same thing. But turns out that she really wasn't looking for that because she actually had a boyfriend. So, again, sometimes things just don't work out. But because lots of other people to meet, some of them who, I wasn't necessarily attracted to, others who I were, and sort of that awkward situation where you're like, hey, bud, you want to come over here and take a picture with us so I don't feel awkward for taking a picture with this girl that I like? That sort of situation. So yeah, meeting new people, but always be one of the guys, or have your group. And put yourself out there. Again, just this experience, I learned so much about people, so much about myself, and so continue to put yourself out there in situations. All right, let's try to wrap this up. Went to Albania, sort of the same thing. Met new people, new opportunities for relationships, and new learnings from that time, but ultimately, again, focus on developing yourself, learning about yourself, and meeting new people, and things will eventually work out. So, I came back to the States, and this was about 4 years ago now, and this is mostly just a cute picture of my nephews, but I think you have to enjoy stages of life where they're at. So playing is important and making the most out of everything. So here's sort of where I'm going to conclude. After 6 years of being out and experiencing the world, I was back home with my family, and for all the relationships and experiences I had encountered, I was still without any girlfriend or any idea of sort of moving towards having a spouse, a partner. And so as you can see here, this was particularly difficult because all my other siblings were either married or in close relationships, even those who were younger than me. So this was sort of on my mind a lot. But I had every reason from my past to believe that God was working and that He was someone to trust and that His timing would be best. So a year went by and a couple more relationship possibilities came and went, and anxiety would sometimes creep up about being alone and wondering why things just never seemed to work out. But ultimately you have a choice. You have a choice that you can live in fear and feel like there's something wrong with you and let that define you, and maybe even settle, like not follow your standards and settle for someone just so you can feel that sense of safety. But that's really not trusting that the Lord will work things out. And so I always tried to lean in to God, and I found comfort and strength in spending time with the Lord during these times of sort of anxiety, and that really developed my relationship with God in new ways. But then, with a little help from Miss Lambright, which you can ask her later, I met Gabrielle. And this has been a lot of fun. As Miss Birdie shared, When we met, this was not happily ever after. There were a lot of things that I had to pull from my experiences about communication and knowledge about myself and other people that have helped to navigate the complexities of my relationship with my now wife. But because we both had a sense of settledness in our commitment to the Lord and that He was working through this, we both felt very settled, and so I proposed and we were married in November. So, thinking back over this 12-year journey, since puberty began its work in high school, I can see how faithful the Lord was and how much more I got to learn about myself and experience the world by not being committed to a serious relationship earlier in life. So, having time to yourself is something to take advantage of if that's how the chips fall in your life. So this is my story. There's certainly others who meet people at different times, but I don't think we should expect necessarily to meet someone in high school or in college. And so just live where you're at, be present, invest in relationships, grow in whatever way you can, and your understanding of what you're looking for in a companion. And eventually, if you trust God, something will come along. It just might be sooner than later, or later than sooner. And with that, class is going to